In Chapter 1, Harry Dresden appears on The Larry Fowler Show alongside Mort Lindquist, a medium. Harry attends mainly to meet Mort for information on Susan, who's gone missing. Mort confirms Susan is alive, but in Peru, Red Court vampire territory, though he couldn't learn more. During the show, one of the surprise guests is revealed to be Paulo Ortega, a Red Court vampire duke. Ortega secretly threatens Harry, offering him a deal. Face him in a duel under the Unseelie Accords to end the vampire war. If Harry refuses, Ortega promises harm to Harry's friends and clients. Realizing Ortega is serious, Harry agrees. As the confrontation heightens Harry's emotions, his suppression spell breaks, causing a magical surge that blows out studio equipment and triggers a fire alarm. After evacuating, Father Vincent admits he also came to Chicago specifically to speak with Harry, hinting that Harry's troubles are only beginning. In Chapter 2, Harry Dresden speaks with Father Vincent, who insists on confidentiality before revealing his case. Vincent was referred by Father Forthill, someone Harry trusts. Though skeptical of magic, Vincent hires Harry for his expertise in the occult community. Before Vincent can explain his case, a gunman ambushes them in a parking garage. Harry tackles Vincent to the ground as silenced shots are fired. Harry retrieves his shotgun, causing the attacker to flee. They escape in Harry's battered Volkswagen, evading two more armed thugs, one of them identified as Hendricks, enforcer for Chicago crime lord Johnny Marconi. Harry's confused why Marconi's men would target him. Vincent, rattled by the attack, gives Harry directions to his hotel. Though Vincent's request remains unclear, Harry realizes whatever Vincent's brought with him from the Vatican is important enough to attract deadly attention. The attack leaves Harry suspicious and uneasy, as their escape confirms serious trouble ahead. In Chapter 3, Father Vincent takes Harry to a cheap motel and explains his mission, recovering a stolen artifact, the Shroud of Turin. The Shroud was stolen from a cathedral in Italy by a thief named LaRouche and his crew, the Church Mice. LaRouche was later found murdered, staged with fake IDs and tickets to Chicago, pointing investigators toward the city. Vincent suspects his two accomplices, Anna Valmont and Francisca Garcia, fled with the Shroud. Harry notices the staged nature of LaRouche's death and warns Vincent it may be a setup. After accepting the case for a retainer, Harry learns Vincent doesn't believe in magic, but Harry suspects the Shroud could have real mystical power. Returning home, Harry arms himself for safety. As he arrives, he sees two figures fighting outside his apartment. One flees, and Harry corners the other, only to discover it's Susan Rodriguez, his former lover, who vanished months ago after her partial transformation by the Red Court. In Chapter 4, Harry is stunned to find Susan outside his apartment, having just fought off a Red Court vampire. Wary of her condition, Harry cautiously invites her in after confirming she can cross his threshold. Once inside, they share a passionate kiss, but Susan stops before they lose control. Her semi-vampiric kiss nearly overwhelmed Harry. She explains her transformation gave her strength and heightened senses, but carries a dangerous risk. Susan came to warn Harry that Ortega is a deadly warlord with plans beyond a simple duel. The Red Court hopes to either kill Harry or use him to prolong the war. They suspect some vampires will try to sabotage the duel. Susan's associate Martin arrives to take her away, frustrating Harry with hints of a partnership between them. After they leave, Murphy calls Harry for help on an unofficial case, asking him to meet her at the morgue about a corpse she wants him to examine. In Chapter 5, Murphy brings Harry to the morgue to examine a mutilated corpse. The body shows a strange pattern of deep, grid-like cuts and missing hands and head. Despite the gruesome wounds, the victim died from a simultaneous attack of numerous deadly diseases, including some thought extinct, suggesting magical or supernatural involvement. Harry notices a faded tattoo on the corpse's arm, but doesn't recognize it. He suspects the murder may tie to the LaRouche case, but withholds details due to confidentiality. Murphy agrees to investigate LaRouche independently. As Harry leaves the hospital, he senses danger but sees nothing until a monstrous, six-legged, horned, bear-like creature ambushes him in an alley. Realizing it's not a normal beast, with glowing eyes and runes, Harry panics and runs, knowing this creature is a supernatural assassin likely sent after him. The situation underscores that enemies are now actively targeting him amidst the rising threats in Chicago. In Chapter 6, Harry realizes the bear-like creature chasing him is a trap and flees, but it gains on him. During the escape, he saves a homeless man and a bystander, then turns to fight. His first fire blast wounds the creature, but a second fails. When their eyes